Hello students, welcome to Arunavasir Bio class. So today our special class for CBSE 9 and today our topic, very important chapter, that is the fundamental unit of life. At first welcome all of you in our special session for the fundamental unit of life. Welcome the Sayon, Sindila, Satanik, Oniket, Shurashish, Gaurav, Rasdeep, Anubhav, Shoham, Sudipto, Dishari, Somojit, Oindrila, Hongkong, Devarun, Somodipto, Shutanu, Srijita, Debolina, Nirupama, Ishan, Krishna, Shish, Arushi, Shouresh, Roshmi, Promit, Debra and Shaptorshi and Somojit. All of you are welcome in our special class, right? If I ask you a question, please you write down your answer in your live chat box, right? So the fundamental unit of life, this chapter is very important because this chapter is another name, that is a cell. But today we discuss this chapter, the CBSE 9 point of view, because in the CBSE 9 this chapter is very important. Lots of questions is there, and I give some homework also in the YouTube description box. After the class is finished, within 2 hours, I give you the homework, right? Please you download it, and all of the students, please write down all the questions and their answers in your copy, right? Because this chapter is very important, not only the CBSE 9 syllabus, also this chapter is there in the CBSE or IC board in the class 11 also be. So this is the fundamental base. This chapter is very important for your life. So today we discuss this most important chapter, that is a fundamental unit of life, and we have divided the all syllabus into the different days. Today is the first day, so it's the day 1. Today our topic and our syllabus, it is the basis of the cell. That is the different types of cell is there, like the prokaryotic cell, like the eukaryotic cell, like the plant cell, like the animal cell. Today we discuss these fundamentals of these types of cell. But next day, day 2, we discuss the structural organization of the cell. We discuss about the structure of the plasma membrane or the cell membrane, cell wall, nucleus, cytoplasm. All of the structure we discuss in our next day class. But in the next day, you also give you a mock test about the day 1. But in the day 3, we discuss about the cell organelles. Another some most important cell organelles is there. Their structure and their function we discuss in that particular chapter. That is the endoplasmic reticulum, Golgi apparatus, lysosomes, mitochondria, plastids, vacuole. All of these things we discuss in our day 3. But in the day 3, you give the mock test on the day 1 and day 2 syllabus. So now we start the chapter, that is the day 1 part, that is the basis of the cell, right? So after the class is finished, please you see this video again and again and write down the notes on that particular chapter. So at first, this is the chapter, that is the cell or unit of life, and we discuss the different type of cell. So cell is what is the cell? At first we try to discuss this topic, what is the cell? So cell is the fundamental, structural and functional unit to all the living organisms. Like the human body, like you have also the cell. Like another example, like the birds, they have also the cell. Like the fish, they have also the cells. So all the living cell, living organisms, they have made up of cell, and their function is depend on the cell. So all the function of the body that is controlled by the cell. So the cell is called the structural and fundamental unit of the life. So that is the definition of the cell also. So if I ask you a definition of the cell or what are the cell, that time you write down. The cell is the fundamental, structural and functional unit of the living organism. Different scientists work on the cell, and their contribution is very important in our for the study of the cell. But you know what is the when we are study the cell, but in which part of the science? That is called the cytology, right? In the cytology, we are discuss about the structure and about the function of the cell. But in the cytology, if we are discuss the structure of the and function of the cell, that time we find out the different scientists, they work on the cell. At first, the Robert Hooke, first they discovered the cell, and Robert Hooke first time they observed the cork cell. But cork cell is not the living, so they are observed the dead cells. Another one scientist, that is Antony von Leeuwenhoek, first observe and describe the live cell. They invent a microscope also, and in his microscope, and he observed the first living cell. They observed the dead cell, Robert Hooke, but the Leeuwenhoek, they observed the first living cell, right? Now, cell, they are very minute object, minute things, so you cannot see the all cells in the naked eye. So we use the tools. These tools are called the microscope. So what is the microscope? Microscope is the tools which is used to see the microscopic things. Microscopic things, that is a cell or the microorganism, it is observed by the microscope. Microscope is the different types. Light microscope is there. Another one is the electron microscope. Light microscope, where the illumination source are the light. On the other hand, in the electron microscope, the electron is the main source of illumination. But you know, the light microscope, their magnification is generally 1000 times. On the other hand, electron microscope, they have the magnification is lots more, that is the 1,00,000 times. And the light microscope, the glass lens are used, but in the electron microscope, the electromagnetic lens is used. So there is some difference about the light microscope and electron microscope. It is very important in your science Olympiad exam. Anubhav, clear, understand? Now, light microscope, also the different type according to their number of cells. If the light microscope have only one lens, that time they are called the simple microscope. On the other hand, compound microscope, they have more than one cells. In your laboratory in the school, you can observe the compound microscope is there in your lab. In the class 11-12 syllabus, the practical is there. Also 9 and 10 students, some practical also be there. So that is the microscope. Now, most important contribution of the study of the cell, that is called the cell theory. This is the most important question in your class 9 CBSE board, and all other boards also be there. This question is most important, that is the cell theory. Which scientists given the cell theory? That is the Sladen and Swan. They formulated the cell theory. After their cell theory, Rudolf, another one scientist, they modified the cell theory. Now, what is the cell theory and what is their formulated sentence? Number one, Matthew Sladen observed that plants are composed of the cells. And through the Swans, they ultimately reported that cells had a thin outer layer. He also found that plant cells had the cell wall, and he proposed that the animals and plants are composed of cells and products of cells. Any living things, any plants, any animals, that is made up of cells. That is the most important hypothesis of the Sladen and Swan in the cell theory. But after few years, Rudolf gave one important answer, that is from where the cells are coming. Cells are coming from the pre-existing cell by the process of cell division. This is the contribution of the cell theory, that is the Rudolf Virchow. They've given that the all cells arise from the pre-existing cells. So, what is the statement of the cell theory? All living organisms are composed of cells and the products of cells. Another one, all cells arise from pre-existing cells. Clear? These two informations is most and most important in your class. If we are discuss the structure, general structure of the cell. So, you know the cell have an outer membrane and internal part you observe that time the cytoplasm is there, and in the cytoplasm the nucleus is there. So, thus all the cells, if it is prokaryotic cell, if it is eukaryotic cell, if it is plant cell, it is animal cell, all cells have the cytoplasm. Cytoplasm is a matrix-like substance present inside the cell. Ribosome, this cell organelles, is most and most important because it is help the protein synthesis, and protein synthesis is the necessary in the all the living cells. So ribosome is present in all the cells. But you know the cells, they have not the similar structure, not the similar shape, they have lots of varieties. Most importantly, the smallest cell, that is called the mycoplasma. Largest isolated single cell, that is the egg of ostrich, that is you observe in your naked eye. And the longest cell, that is the nerve cell, also it is called the neuron, right? And the bacteria, that is the microscopic things. Bacteria, their size is 3 to 5 micrometer, and human RBCs, that means the red blood cells, their structure 7 micrometer in the diameter. So cells have the lots of diversity, they have not in similar in nature, they have the differences. But you know, if we are discuss the shape of the cell, that time you also find the lots of difference. Like in your body, RBC have the biconcave cell. Nerve cells, they have a long structural part, long structural structure. Why? Because all the different cells have the all different function. So they have the all different shape, right? So our nerve cells, our RBCs, our muscle cells, WBCs, all of the different types of cells, but RBCs have the biconcave cell. This is the most important. But if we discuss the structure of the nucleus, according to the structure of the nucleus, we classify the cells into the two categories. One is a prokaryotic cell, another one eukaryotic cell. Prokaryotic cells means they have not the well-defined nucleus. Like the structure of the bacteria. Bacteria, blue-green algae, mycoplasma, all of the are the prokaryotic cell, because if you observe the structure of the prokaryotic cell, that time you observe they have no well-defined membrane-bound nucleus. Only some DNA materials present in the scattered condition in the cytoplasm. So they are called the pronucleus. That means the nucleus is not developed. But this is the example of the prokaryotic cell, that is the bacteria. So bacteria have the different structural part. Like bacteria are covered by a membrane. It is called the cell envelope. And every cell is required the energy in the form of ATP because it is a living. But in the bacteria, the mitochondria is absent. So how they produce their energy? By the use of this mesosome. And this structural point, the DNA, which is not the developing nature. So this is called the nucleoid. Bacteria have a long thread-like structure that is called the flagella. And you know, this bacterial structure covers small appendages, very small. This is called the pili, right? But most importantly, the ribosome is present in the bacterial cells. This is why. What is the function of the ribosome? The function of the ribosome is the protein synthesis, and some inclusions bodies also be present in the prokaryotic cell. So this is the prokaryotic cells. Now we discuss about the structure of the eukaryotic cell. So we are find out the difference between the prokaryotic cell and the eukaryotic cell. In the eukaryotic cell, they have a membrane-bound nucleus. That is the most important point. They have the nucleus that is well developed. Another one point, they have also membrane-bound cell organelles, mitochondria, right? Mitochondria, endoplasmic reticulums, chloroplast, all of this present in the eukaryotic cell. That is not present in the prokaryotic cell. And eukaryotic cell, most commonly they have the two examples there. One is the plant cells, another one is the animal cell. In your body the animal cell is present, in the plant body the plant cell is there. But what is the difference between the plant cell and animal cell? You can observe this is a plant cell. Fine, how you are telling me this is a plant cell? Because you observe that they have the large vacuole. Because vacuole is a storehouse, this is present in the plant cell in a large structure. Also, the cell wall, that is the outer covering of the plant, that is present in the plant cell. Chloroplast, most important of cell organelles, this is also present in the plant cell. But mitochondria, Golgi bodies, mitochondria is there, right? And most important Golgi apparatus, ribosome, also it is present in the plant cell. But in the animal cell, this is the eukaryotic cell, because their nucleus also be developed. This is the membrane bounded, also membrane bounded. Different cell organelles like the mitochondria also be present there. Other membrane bound cell organelles also be present, but the outer covering is the cell membrane. So cell wall are absent in the animal cell. Plant cell can perform the photosynthesis. Why? Because the chloroplast is present, but in animal cell they cannot perform the photosynthesis because the chloroplasts are absent in the animal cell, right? Mitochondria, also the Golgi apparatus, most importantly cell organelles present in the animal cell which is not present in the plant cells, that is the centriole. The centriole have the function to develop spindle fibers in the cell division process. So this is the eukaryotic cell, plant cell and animal cell. Now we discuss another important topic, that is but you know the amoeba or bacteria, they have only a single cell. So this type of organism who have the only single cell, they are called the unicellular organism. But which organism have the many cells? Like the human beings, they are called the multicellular organism. Please you tell me, Plasmodium, Euglena, Paramecium, they belongs to Protista, but they are unicellular or multicellular. So the Euglena and Paramecium are the unicellular or multicellular, and the Euglena are prokaryote or eukaryotes. Please do write down in the live chat box. All of the students, please write down in the live chat box the Euglena is the eukaryotic cell or not eukaryotic or prokaryotics, and the Euglena are the unicellular or multicellular. Please write down in the live chat box. Okay, please write down. So, we discussed today that is the eukaryotic cell, they have the well-defined nucleus. So, most commonly the two examples is there, one is the plant cell and another is the animal cell. So, in the plant cell, the cell wall are present, animal cell wall are absent, plastids are present, plastids are absent, large central vacuole is present, many small vacuole are present, centriole are absent, and in here, animal cell, the centriole are present. This is the difference, most important question. And the prokaryotic cell and eukaryotic cell. Example, in the prokaryotic cell is a bacteria, and the eukaryotic cell, that is a plant cell and animal cell. So prokaryotic cell generally smaller, eukaryotic cell is larger. Genetic material is in the form of nucleoid, and in here it is the nucleus. Nuclear membrane are absent, nuclear membrane are present. Membrane bound organelles are absent, membrane bound organelles are present. In here the circular DNA is there, and in here the eukaryotic cell, the linear DNA is there. Ribosome in 7th type, S is the Weber constant or sedimentation coefficient, and the eukaryotic cell 8th type of ribosome is present. So this is the most important question in your school syllabus. Write the difference between the prokaryotic cell and eukaryotic cell. You write down all the differences, and write down the difference between the plant cell and animal cell. Also, it is the most important question in your board. Right? So today, in the day 1 of the cell, we discuss the basis of the cell. What are the cell and what is the different type of cell, like the prokaryotic cell and the eukaryotic cell, and what is the difference between the plant cell and animal cell, that is discussed in our day 1 syllabus. So if any doubts, you write them in the comment section, right? And so I give the homework. Please you do and complete all of these questions. If any question you have a problem, write down in the comment section. I tell you an answer or help to solve the problems. Okay, so thank you very much, and wish you best of luck.